Pause whatever you're doing right now. What I'm about to reveal has been systematically concealed from humanity for over 15 centuries. This isn't speculation or theory. It's documented knowledge that was deliberately removed from historical records because of its power to transform human consciousness fundamentally. In 742 CE, a manuscript known as the Liber Animarum Itineraris, the Book of Soul Journeys, was completed by an order of metaphysical scholars whose lineage traced back to the pre-Socratic mystery schools. This manuscript, written in ancient Aramaic and later translated into Latin, contained the most comprehensive mapping of consciousness evolution ever documented. It detailed with extraordinary precision the 7 distinct phases every soul undergoes before incarnating into physical form. This knowledge wasn't meant to be hidden. In fact, it was originally intended to be shared widely as part of humanity's fundamental understanding of existence. But powerful institutions recognize something dangerous in these teachings. When humans understand the true nature of their existence, they become impossible to control through fear, guilt, or artificial scarcity. The manuscript reveals that you, as a conscious entity, participated fully in designing your current life experience. Every challenge, every relationship, every talent and limitation was selected with purpose. There are no victims in this paradigm, only conscious architects temporarily experiencing amnesia about their true nature. What you're about to learn will permanently alter how you perceive your existence. The palm reading diagram you see in this image represents just one ancient system for understanding the soul's blueprint, a physical mapping of the metaphysical design you created before birth. Just as these lines on the palm reveal patterns and potentials, the 7 stages of pre-birth consciousness reveal the architecture of your current existence. Before we continue, take a second to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Share this video to as many people as you can. Thank you for helping us grow. Now, let's continue Stage 1. Cosmic Resonance. The Awakening Out. The journey begins not with a decision, but with a resonance. Your consciousness, existing in a state of expanded awareness beyond the limitations of space-time, first experiences what the ancient manuscript calls the primordial echo, a specific vibrational pattern that aligns perfectly with your evolutionary needs. This isn't random. It isn't assigned. It's a precise frequency that contains within it the exact challenges, opportunities, and experiences your consciousness requires for its next expansion. Think of it as a cosmic tuning fork that vibrates at a frequency that only your particular consciousness can fully recognize. When this resonance occurs, your expanded consciousness experiences what we might call divine discontent, a recognition that further evolution requires new experiences. This is the catalyst that initiates the incarnation process. Many humans experience echoes of this resonance throughout their lives, moments of inexplicable longing, a sense that something more exists beyond the material world, sudden inspirations that seem to come from nowhere. These aren't random neural firings or emotional anomalies. They're quantum echoes of your pre-birth resonance pattern breaking through the amnesia of incarnation. The manuscript describes this first stage as the remembrance of forgetting, the paradoxical moment when your infinite consciousness recognizes the evolutionary value of temporarily experiencing limitation. It's not a diminishment, but an act of cosmic courage, choosing to compress infinite awareness into finite form for the purpose of expansion through experience. Those who meditate deeply often report connecting with this resonance, a vibration that feels simultaneously new and deeply familiar, like remembering something you never actually forgot. This is your consciousness reconnecting with its original pre-birth resonance pattern. The ancient scholars documented specific practices for strengthening this connection. Methods of breath control, sound vibration, and consciousness positioning that allow the incarnated self to momentarily experience the original resonance that initiated your current life journey. When accessed, this resonance provides clarity about your broader purpose that no external teaching can offer. Stage 2. Karmic Assessment. The Cosmic Review. After the initial resonance establishes the general frequency of your coming incarnation, your consciousness enters what the manuscript calls the Chamber of Reflections, a state of comprehensive evaluation where all previous existential patterns are assessed. This isn't the simplistic life review described in modern near-death accounts. It's a multidimensional analysis of cause-effect relationships across all previous experiences, not just past lives on Earth, but all conscious experiences across multiple planes of existence. The manuscript describes this reading the Akashic configuration, examining how your consciousness has interacted with the universal field throughout its existence. This creates the energetic blueprint for your coming incarnation. Unlike religious concepts of judgment, this is described as a scientific process, an objective assessment of energy patterns, their consequences, and their evolutionary implications. There is no punishment, no reward, only clear seeing of what is. During this phase, your consciousness identifies specific patterns that remain unresolved or undeveloped. These aren't karmic debts in the punitive sense, but rather evolutionary opportunities, aspects of consciousness that benefit from further refinement through experience. The manuscript describes how consciousness identifies 3 specific categories during this assessment. 1. Completion patterns, experiences that require resolution for evolutionary coherence. 2. Expansion patterns, undeveloped aspects of consciousness seeking expression. 3. Service patterns, abilities and insights developed that can now benefit others. These patterns aren't selected based on worthiness or spiritual advancement. They're identified based on their evolutionary efficiency, which experiences will provide the maximum growth with the optimal use of energy. This explains why some humans incarnate with seemingly easier lives while others face extraordinary challenges. The difference isn't divine favoritism or punishment, it's a precise calibration of what each consciousness requires for its next evolutionary phase. The manuscript describes how during this assessment, your consciousness exists in a state of complete clarity, free from the emotional attachments and fear-based thinking that characterize physical existence. From this perspective, even the most challenging life circumstances are recognized as valuable catalysts for evolution. Those who access deep meditative states sometimes report glimpses of this assessment process, moments of profound understanding about the purpose behind their life challenges. These aren't fabrications of the mind, but actual reconnections with the pre-birth assessment consciousness. Stage 3. Council of Architects, the Sacred Assembly. The third stage involves what the manuscript calls the convergence of elder lights, a gathering of advanced consciousnesses who maintain the integrity of the universal design. These beings, referred to in various traditions as guides, masters, or overseers, don't dictate your path. Their function is to ensure the coherence of your chosen design within the larger pattern of universal evolution. They are described not as separate entities, but as differentiated aspects of the same consciousness field you belong to, like specialized cells within the same organism. The manuscript describes this council as consisting of 3 distinct categories of consciousness. 1. Pattern keepers, consciousnesses that maintain the integrity of universal laws. 2. Wisdom bearers, entities with whom you share deep evolutionary history. 3. Frequency holders, specialized consciousnesses that stabilize specific energetic fields. During this phase, your design undergoes what might be called evolutionary peer review. The Council examines the patterns you've selected, offering refinements and adjustments to maximize coherence and growth potential. This isn't a hierarchical judgment, but a collaborative optimization. The manuscript emphasizes that your consciousness retains full agency in this process. The Council offers perspective, not commands. The text describes how certain Council members have maintained connection with your consciousness throughout multiple incarnations, beings with whom you share what might be called soul resonance. These aren't random assignments, but deep evolutionary relationships. Many humans report sensing these presences throughout their lives, intuitive connections with non-physical consciousnesses that provide guidance at critical moments. These aren't imaginary friends or psychological constructs, but actual connections with Council members who maintain contact despite the veil of forgetting. The manuscript details specific protocols for strengthening these connections, methods of attunement that allow the incarnated self to receive guidance more clearly. These aren't prayers to external deities, but consciousness technologies for accessing your pre-existing Council connections. Those who develop this awareness often report receiving precisely the guidance needed at critical junctures, not as supernatural intervention, but as a restoration of connections that were established before birth. Stage 4. Purpose calibration. The sacred contract. In this crucial phase, your consciousness selects specific evolutionary objectives, not based on comfort or ease, but on maximum potential for growth. The manuscript describes this as inscribing the soul mandate, establishing the core purposes that will drive your incarnation. These aren't vague aspirations, but precise evolutionary intentions. This explains why you feel drawn to certain activities or fields of knowledge from an early age. These aren't random interests or genetic predispositions. They're echoes of your pre-birth purpose calibration, breaking through the amnesia of incarnation. The text identifies 5 categories of purpose that most souls select in various combinations. 1. Healing mandates, resolving fragmentation within self and others. 2. Creation mandates, bringing new forms, ideas, or possibilities into manifestation. 3. Understanding mandates, developing deeper comprehension of specific aspects of existence. 4. Liberation mandates, freeing consciousness from limiting patterns. 5. Integration mandates, unifying apparently separate aspects of existence. Your specific combination creates what the manuscript calls your purpose fingerprint, a unique configuration that distinguishes your evolutionary journey from all others. Importantly, the text emphasizes that purpose isn't a single occupation or role, but a quality of consciousness that can express through multiple forms. A healing mandate, for instance, might express through medicine, art, parenting, or countless other channels. The manuscript describes how during this phase, your consciousness exists in a state of absolute clarity about its evolutionary trajectory. You see with perfect precision how specific experiences will catalyze your development. This explains the sense of destiny many humans report, moments when they recognize with absolute certainty what they're meant to do. These aren't delusions or wishful thinking, but actual reconnections with your pre-birth purpose calibration. The text details specific practices for strengthening this connection, methods for quieting the conditioned mind to allow your original purpose to emerge into awareness. When accessed, this connection provides a level of certainty and direction that no external guidance can offer. Stage 5. Vessel selection. The sacred vehicle. In this phase, your consciousness evaluates potential physical forms, genetic lineages, and family systems. Each option presents different vibrational frequencies and inherent challenges. The manuscript describes this as selecting the alchemical vessel, choosing the specific biological and social container that will house your consciousness during incarnation. This selection isn't based on status, comfort, or privilege. It's based on vibrational compatibility with your chosen evolutionary purposes. You select not the most comfortable vessel, but the one offering optimal conditions for your specific growth objectives. The text details how consciousness examines three primary aspects of potential vessels. 1. Genetic configurations, physical characteristics, predispositions, and biological potentials. 2. Ancestral patterns, family systems, unresolved dynamics, and generational themes. 3. Environmental factors, cultural, historical, and geographical circumstances. Each potential combination offers different evolutionary catalysts. A challenging family system might provide precisely the resistance needed to develop specific strengths. A particular genetic configuration might offer the exact limitations that will focus your energy in necessary directions. This explains why you sometimes feel simultaneously at home and alien in your body and family. Parts of the vessel align perfectly with your consciousness, while others create productive tension. The manuscript emphasizes that this selection isn't a random assignment or punishment, but a precise matching of consciousness with its optimal evolutionary container. Even the most challenging circumstances are selected for their growth potential. Those who access deep meditative states sometimes report understanding the purpose behind their specific physical and family circumstances. Moments of clarity about why they incarnated into particular conditions. These aren't rationalizations, but actual reconnections with the selection consciousness. The text details specific practices for honoring your chosen vessel, methods for working with rather than against your physical and familial circumstances. When this understanding deepens, you stop fighting the conditions you selected and start utilizing them as the evolutionary tools they were meant to be. Stage 6. Memory sequestration. The sacred forgetting. For the human experience to function as an effective evolutionary catalyst, certain knowledge must be temporarily sequestered. The manuscript describes this as the veiling of divine awareness, a sophisticated process of consciousness compression. This isn't punishment or limitation, it's methodology. Just as a scientific experiment requires controlled conditions, your consciousness requires the temporary illusion of separation to achieve specific growth. The text details how this sequestration occurs in 7 distinct layers. 1. Identity veiling, forgetting your nature as infinite consciousness. 2. Purpose veiling, obscuring your specific evolutionary objectives. 3. Relationship veiling, concealing your pre-existing connections with other consciousnesses. 4. Capacity veiling, limiting access to your full abilities. 5. Timeline veiling, restricting awareness of past and future experiences. 6. Dimensional veiling, confining perception primarily to physical reality. 7. Unity veiling, creating the experience of separation from the whole. This veiling isn't absolute. The manuscript describes it as semi-permeable, designed to allow specific remembrances at optimal moments in your development. This explains experiences of déjà vu, unexpected skills, inexplicable knowing, and spontaneous spiritual awakenings. These aren't anomalies, but intentional, thin spots in the veiling, moments when your broader awareness penetrates the amnesia of incarnation. The text emphasizes that this veiling isn't a prison, but a teaching technology. It creates the conditions necessary for certain types of growth that cannot occur in states of complete awareness. Those who develop advanced meditation practices report systematically penetrating these veils, not through force, but through refined attention that allows consciousness to recognize its own nature despite the veiling. The manuscript details specific protocols for thinning these veils at appropriate developmental stages, methods that allow for graduated remembering that doesn't overwhelm the incarnated self. This isn't about escaping human experience, but enriching it through expanded awareness. Stage 7. Dimensional transition, the sacred birth. The final stage involves the complex process of consciousness compression, transitioning from multi-dimensional awareness into the limited perceptual framework of physical existence. The manuscript describes this as the Great Condensation, a sophisticated process where infinite awareness focuses itself into finite expression. This explains the universal trauma of birth. It's not merely physical, it's the shock of dimensional compression. The text details how this transition occurs through what it calls the 9 gates of incarnation, specific thresholds of consciousness compression that occur before, during, and after physical birth. 1. Intention gate, the final commitment to incarnate. 2. Separation gate, detachment from expanded awareness. 3. Attachment gate, connection to the physical vessel. 4. Compression gate, focusing consciousness into limited perception. 5. Threshold gate, the actual moment of birth. 6. Adaptation gate, initial adjustment to physical reality. 7. Integration gate, establishing coherence between consciousness and form. 8. Recognition gate, first experiences of human relationship. 9. Stabilization gate, securing consciousness within physical expression. This process typically spans the period from conception through early childhood, with each gate representing a critical transition in how consciousness relates to physical form. The manuscript emphasizes that this process isn't a diminishment, but a focusing, like light passing through a prism, separating into distinct expressions that reveal aspects of its nature not visible in its unified state. Those who access deep meditative states sometimes report re-experiencing aspects of this transition, not as regression, but as conscious integration of fragmented awareness. These experiences often bring profound healing of birth trauma and early childhood wounding. The text details specific practices for honoring this transition, methods for reconciling your infinite nature with your finite expression. When this understanding deepens, you experience yourself not as consciousness trapped in form, but as consciousness expressing through form for specific evolutionary purposes. Why this knowledge was systematically suppressed. Throughout history, power structures have recognized that humans aware of their true nature become ungovernable through conventional means. The manuscript documents how this knowledge was systematically removed from public access through 3 primary mechanisms. 1. Physical destruction, the burning of texts, destruction of schools, and elimination of teachers. Conceptual distortion, the corruption of original teachings into superstitious or dogmatic forms. 3. Cultural marginalization, the relegation of remaining fragments to the realm of superstition. This wasn't random or accidental. It was a coordinated effort to maintain control over human consciousness. When you believe yourself to be merely physical, limited, and dependent on external authority, you become manageable. When you recognize yourself as an eternal consciousness, temporarily expressing through form, external control systems lose their power. Consider how differently you would approach challenges if you knew you had selected them for your growth. How would you treat others if you recognized them as fellow consciousnesses on parallel journeys? How would you view death if you understood it as a transitional phase rather than an ending? This knowledge doesn't just change beliefs. It fundamentally transforms how consciousness operates within physical reality. It shifts you from reactive to creative, from victim to architect, from passenger to navigator of your existence, reclaiming your sovereign awareness. The memory of these 7 stages remains encoded within you. It manifests as inexplicable knowing, déjà vu experiences, and that persistent feeling that physical reality isn't the complete picture. The manuscript details specific practices for reactivating this knowledge, not as intellectual understanding, but as lived experience. 1. Stillness protocols, methods for quieting the conditioned mind to allow original awareness to emerge. 2. Dream integration, techniques for accessing the less veiled consciousness available during sleep. 3. Intuitive discernment, practices for distinguishing between conditioned thoughts and authentic knowing. 4. Emotional alchemy, approaches for transmuting reactive emotions into evolutionary catalysts. 5. Assumption examination, systematic questioning of fundamental beliefs about reality. 6. Resonance attunement, methods for aligning with your original frequency pattern. 7. Counsel connection, techniques for strengthening awareness of your pre-birth guidance relationships. When you engage these practices consistently, the manuscript promises specific shifts in consciousness. First, synchronicities increase, events that seem coincidental but carry precise meaning. These aren't random. They're moments when your pre-birth design becomes visible within physical circumstances. Second, dreams become more vivid and instructive, not as random neural processing, but as communications from less veiled aspects of your consciousness. Third, you experience moments of expanded awareness that reveal glimpses of your pre-birth consciousness state, not as imagination, but as actual reconnection with your broader identity. Fourth, your intuitive capacities sharpen, not as magical abilities, but as the natural function of consciousness remembering its own nature. Fifth, you begin recognizing the precise purpose behind your life circumstances, not as rationalization, but as clear perception of your pre-birth design. This isn't mysticism, it's the science of consciousness, reclaiming its complete awareness. It doesn't require belief, faith, or adherence to dogma. It requires only your willingness to systematically examine the nature of your own awareness. The choice now stands before you. Continue operating within the limited framework you've been conditioned to accept, or begin the systematic process of remembering who you were before you became who you are. Your consciousness made its choice before birth. The question is, will you make the same choice now? Look at the palm reading diagram in the image. These ancient systems were developed as physical maps of metaphysical design. Just as these lines reveal patterns and potentials in your hand, the 7 stages reveal the architecture of your existence. Both are tools for remembering what you already know, but have temporarily forgotten. The time for remembering is now, not because it's comfortable or convenient, but because it's necessary for the next phase of human evolution. The veils are thinning, the amnesia is lifting, the remembering has already begun. Will you consciously participate in your awakening, or will you continue sleepwalking through a life whose true purpose remains just beyond your awareness? The ancient knowledge has been preserved despite all attempts to eradicate it. It has survived because truth cannot be permanently obscured. It can only be temporarily forgotten. Remember who you are. Remember why you came. Remember what you knew before forgetting became your temporary experience. Your awakening isn't just personal, it's part of a larger evolutionary movement. As individual consciousnesses remember their true nature, the collective field shifts. This isn't idealism, it's the practical mechanics of consciousness evolution. The journey of remembering begins with a single question. What if everything you've been taught about your existence is an intentionally limited perspective designed to keep you manageable rather than masterful? Ask this question sincerely, and the 7 stages will begin revealing themselves to you, not as external teaching, but as remembered knowing. Your soul's journey didn't begin at birth, it won't end at death. What happens between is up to you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like, and share this video. You have done well for helping our channel grow. Thank you. See you in the next video.